This is my pitch for my mockumentary MASA. MASA stands for My Alien Secret Attack. Welcome to MASA. Meet the characters. MASA contains two main characters, Samson Nova and Emery Leal. The boss, Samson Nova, started the company and has goals to meet aliens in space, and however he has no idea how to get to space or what he's doing to get there. Emery Leal was a kid who was picked on as a child that Samson Nova stepped in and helped when he had no one else, and they have been working together for a couple years, I guess, at this point, and they have each other's backs throughout the show at every point. There are also four side characters. Samson Nova's father, Daddy Nova, Samson's friend Jeff Grimm, and two other characters who are one's an investor called John Grant, who turns down Samson, and there's also a security guard who escorts Samson outside the building when he gets denied the investment opportunity. His father and his friend are characters that don't have major roles, mainly because they're not focused. The father is a character who Samson looks up to, and Jeffrey is a bad example to Samson. However, he is a long life friend of Samson. What is MASA about? MASA is about a story of a failing space company who wasted all their budget on a helmet that doesn't even work. Samson Nova, who started the company, has the goal to meet an alien one day, and this mockumentary follows the story of Samsung trying to secure an investment to improve his ability to get to space and achieve his goals, basically. However, due to his reputation of bad spending and terrible ideas that would never work in space, he is constantly treated like a joke and constantly refused at every opportunity he's trying to get himself into. Currently, there are 3 cast members that I have that have major roles, really. Robbie Watmore as playing the main character Samson Nova. He played the main character in my F&P, and hopefully this one will be better than that, due to the fact the structure wasn't too great in my F&P. Hopefully this will be a better structure and more enjoyable for him to perform. Saj is playing Emery Leal, the side guy to Samson, and my friend Sean will be playing John Grant, who is not there in person. He will be over a TV screen, because he can't come into college, and I thought it would be funnier if he came out on a screen instead of in person, and have like a story that Samson is really not a person that you want to get along with, and people try to avoid at all costs. The inspiration for this mockumentary follows multiple different mockumentaries. The two main ones are The Office and Parks and Recreation. These two are probably my favourite mockumentaries. I watched other ones like Into the Shadows, I think that's what it's called, and I think there's another one but I can't remember. These two have the main inspiration obviously being set in an office and like a work environment, and them just working day-to-day lives throughout the story. The main character Samson is very heavily like inspired on by characters such as Michael Scott from The Office and Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec, due to their optimistic natures and outlook on life. They don't give up, and even when things are going bad, they still look at the positive in things, just like Samson does and that's why he's still going to this day. Blockbuster is a show, not a mockumentary, but a show about the last blockbuster in America, due to the fact there are no more need for discs, DVDs, CDs, because of streaming networks. They're like failing, and not many people come into the stores, and that's like where I got the idea of a failing company. Like, it's on needles, kinda. Main reason I wanted to do something about a failing company is because I wanted that series to do well. Sadly, it didn't. Got cancelled after one season. But I like Randall Park, so I watched it when it came out, and would love to see another series like that one day. The story of MASA will be, I've kind of like cut it up into kind of like 5 different mini parts, but like 2 big parts. The first part, which is the introduction to the company, pretty much, and how they've got here. You first meet Emery, who introduces himself to the camera guy and goes around, takes him to the room, or like office kind of place where the company actually resides, introducing himself on the way, and talking a bit about the company and what they do. Then you are introduced to Samson, the main character that the whole story pretty much focuses on, with him talking about how they supposedly had a bunch of staff, however they all quit, with a PowerPoint presentation, but with pictures. There's going to be like a side plot where he can't afford PowerPoint, so he has to draw all his ideas down instead of being able to write it up on a computer and presenting it like a normal person. He does this throughout the show with different parts where he's just drawn these slideshow PowerPoints, kinda, where he's just explaining stuff, and then he just kind of throws them all to the side and then starts talking about his financial problems with the company that are causing such bad troubles for the company and him. We then learn the big reason for why the cause of the being broke. The helmet that doesn't work. All Samson's efforts have been put into a single helmet that would not survive in space or be able to do anything in space at all. It is pretty much just a bike helmet. That's it. And they introduce it by showing a poorly made advert for this helmet. They have made like last minute, minimal budget, and just played on an old laptop, or just like a laptop, and Then Emery comes in telling Samsung about how he's secured an investment meeting with a man named John Grant. The second big part of the MASA story is the interview with John Grant. He is, however, afraid to meet Samsung in person because of his reputation. He doesn't want to be affiliated with him whatsoever, so he did it over call. And due to Samsung's bad habits with blowing money on useless items that don't do what they're meant to, he is often seen as a joke in the show by other people. His father, John Grant, are the two main ones. Obviously, continuing he can't afford PowerPoint. He has drawn a presentation of what he wants to achieve and how he wants to run it, basically. He first mentions how he wants to pretty much blow the rocket out of the center of town so everyone can watch. Obviously, that would cause a lot of damage and wouldn't be sustainable whatsoever, so they just can't do it. Also, the fact he has no idea what he's talking about with suits or space suits or the helmet not doing what he wants. John Grant turns him down, refuses to invest in his company, to the point where Samsung starts to beg for money because he is running out of time before he pretty much loses everything. The next scene will not be a big one, kind of just fun. Keep up the comedy of the mockumentary. Is meeting his friend and tell him about, pretty much just tell him about the investment meeting and how it's gone wrong. However, you find out his friend is a criminal. He cannot be seen on TV whatsoever and runs away as soon as he realizes he's being filmed for this documentary, and that's about it. You don't see him again, and probably gonna have some we're definitely gonna have some like interviews, like one-on-one interviews, like The Office style, like Parks and Rec, in between all this, different parts. And I feel like this would be a good place to put Emery Leal, the second in command kind of person, telling us about how he's committed crimes and how he's a bad influence, and pretty much give us a base idea on what the character's like and why that interaction has just happened. You then get to the end of the mockumentary, pretty much closer to the end than and you see Samsung trying to get a loan off his father. His father, however, is fed up with his spending habits and lack of knowledge. However, his father is most likely in some shady business. Even though his father is his inspiration for starting a company, you never know what his father does as it, like, to inspire him. Neither does Samsung, and he will never tell him. Due to that, Samsung knows how to pretty much manipulate him into giving him money by asking about his business and how he wants to be like him. So he gives him the money so he can keep the business afloat, pretty much. Then it gets bad when Samsung, being kind of immature and a child, not really understanding stuff like that, he ends up showing the documentary people and starts talking about his financial problem again. However, he shows the documentary people his finance, all of the stuff that you would not want anyone to see on a documentary. He accidentally shows it all. Then, obviously, Emery, being a more smart person, comes in trying to like move the camera guy out the way, but accidentally knocking him out, which ends the documentary there and has credits roll over whilst Emery and Samsung are panicking because they've just knocked out this guy who's supposed to be interviewing them and creating a documentary on their company, to then end the story there. I wrote it like it was going to be a continued thing. I feel like it would be better that way instead of having an actual end, like a pilot episode. But obviously, you never get to see what happens afterwards. You can either say the documentary people pulled out because less funds, or because he got knocked out. Either way, there probably will never be another episode, but it's written as if there's going to be more episodes in the future. How am I going to make it? Obviously, I've mentioned how it takes inspiration off The Office and Parks and Rec. That is the type of style I want to use for the cameras, handheld, make it feel more like an actual documentary rather than still shots like a TV show or out. Like have the camera person move with the person, like they're talking and they're like right next to each other, rather than the camera's not there, like in a TV show where you're meant to pretend the camera's not there. The camera is there. It's like another character. Also, having the... I also want to have wireless mics. I think that would be the easiest way to make this thing, but also the best way. A boom mic would be nice, but due to some other scenes, I don't think it would work as well, because obviously you can't have the camera right up into the faces of the characters like Jeff, who doesn't immediately know they're there, so you have to keep it far away. Like in The Office and Parks and Rec, when they have personal scenes with the characters, they don't want to be filmed, so they stand farther away, like they don't know they're being filmed, but obviously they still have mics on and all that stuff. And then obviously the interview parts. I don't know how many exactly, but I do know I want to have many interview parts, like they do in The Office and Parks and Rec, where they just kind of talk to the camera, like they've been asked a question, but they repeat the question to the camera, like so the audience knows what they've been asked, and also it's like they're having a conversation, so it's like a documentary. Locations and props. Locations, there's only two major ones. One, the photography studio for the investment interview. I would like to use that because I feel like it's a smaller but open room still, so it feels more like an interview room rather than a small classroom with a load of stuff in it. I feel like that wouldn't make sense, and I wouldn't know anywhere else to film it, that scene specifically. TV studio for the main location where the company is located. I feel like that would be cool. like they have plans to create a more bigger space company, but obviously they don't have that yet. I like the idea of using the top bit, like the overview of that room as well, because it's like looking down into a space room where all the computers are. They had that in mind when they bought the place, but obviously due to the lack of funds, they don't have the people, the equipment to actually do that successfully. Some minor locations like college hallways, just easy for like the intro, and when Samsung gets taken out by the security guard. However, I wouldn't use the same hallways for each scene. I would probably use a different building or just have somewhere different for each scene, obviously. Then, obviously, with Jeffrey Grimm, you need a more isolated place where there's no buildings really, or like a park bench, or just like a street where they meet up. Props includes obviously the bike helmet. That is the whole reason they are in this financial problem, and a TV screen, which would be a lot better to have a moving TV screen like we used in the final show at the end of last year, to roll in when Sean or John Grant is on the screen investing in Samsung, aka Robbie. Some of the things include costumes. Some of the characters like Sean, Robbie, potentially Saj would require a suit. If Saj did have one, it would be a lot more casual, just like maybe a blazer, like I'm wearing now, just like a blazer with a shirt. That's about it. He doesn't need a full-on suit, and none of them really need a full-on suit. They don't need ties. If they want ties, they can have ties, but it doesn't need to be over the top, because obviously they are struggling in this business. Sean's character might wear a tie, but it also might be funny to just like have a scene where Sean stands up and it turns out he's in his underwear, or he's in like swim shorts or something. They just put a suit like blazer on, and that's about it. That is the whole pitch, I think. I think I've covered most of it. I did write character sheets, which have a lot more of the characters' progression in it, like what they do on stuff, how they act. That's about it. Sadly, I couldn't show it in this PowerPoint because it's all different slides and it kind of gets messy with all of them. But I'll give you them as well. I'll put them when I send this video. And but thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy the final product when it's finished.